So China's economic benchmarks for this year are set. Let's bring in Mr. Li Yong, Vice Chairman of the China Association of International Trade, as well as Mr. Laurence Brahm, Chief Economist at the New Earth Group. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining us on the program tonight. Mr. Li, let me start with you. So you took a look at the government work report today as well. What sort of stood out to you this year's work report versus, say, last year's?
Even though the GDP target, hasn't changed, it's 7.5%. But I noticed that the wording is a little different because this time they used the word around 7.5%.
Right.
I think in the past, the 7% was supposed to be the bottom target that the country need to achieve. But this time, I think it shows the government confidence in terms of initiating the reforms, which may have sort of impact on the economic growth, and it also shows that the government is more tolerant on a lower level of GDP.
Well, can we say then that this could possibly be China's version of its forward guidance? We have a lower limit now of GDP at around 7.5%, and the CPI at 3.5% is the upper limit. Would you consider this sort of forward guidance going forward?
I think the government. I think when they're looking at the economic growth, I think they are actually having a bottom line actually in the mind. For example, probably they are not really worried that the rate of growth is going to be below 7, which I think it is the bottom line to maintain the expected employment,
right,
and to generate the needed growth for the country, for the economy.
Okay, so employment set at 10 million new jobs to be created this year. Laurence, are you concerned that certain economic targets may not be met this year? Because 2 months into 2014, we saw a few sluggish figures out of China, especially on the manufacturing side, which is sort of a leading indicator of the Chinese economy. Do you think certain targets may possibly not be achieved?
It's the elasticity factor that Mr. Li just mentioned. The government is getting away from the targets, and even by setting 7.5 and 3.5, what it's signaling is another message. This is reform restart. Zhu Rongji in 1998 said 8% growth, no more than 3% inflation, and following him under the administration of Wen Jiabao was all about growth, high growth, because the idea is only growth is going to keep political stability. But the bottom line is growth is not keeping stability. If you have 8, 9, 10% growth, but you're ruining your environment, your agricultural base, your water systems, you're creating problems with health care, with people's livelihoods, and ultimately the cost of that has to be carried by the government and back to the taxpayer and the people later, and that's what's causing a lot of social outrage. So this is a much more flexible approach that the government's leading into.
Okay, so we've got about 1 minute left on this topic, and I want to get both your opinions on this. How do you think the reforms this year might impact growth? Because there's essentially two camps, right? One that says reforms may speed up growth because we have a lot of deregulation, and the other is saying that because we have more sustainable growth, growth could slow. Mr. Li, let's start with you.
I think it is going to create more opportunities rather than the concern about the slow growth.
Okay, so you think growth is going to pick up due to these reforms. And Laurence, your opinion?
Investments in new areas, because green growth is creating new opportunities for renewable energy, energy efficiency. All kinds of industries need to be supported with this. It's a new opportunity, not just to employ blue collar, but also college graduates, PhDs. There's a lot of them coming out of the universities now. They all need jobs. This is the way they're going to get them.
All right, so it seems like we have two China bulls here. Many thanks for your insights on that, gentlemen. We'll come back to you momentarily.